Claire's heart thudded uncomfortably as the lift descended to reception. Each floor passed much more slowly than usual. She mentally rehearsed what she would say. She was just a diligent medical secretary following up on an administrative anomaly. Nothing suspicious, nothing unusual. The detective stood near the information desk, casually flipping through a hospital brochure. Tall and lean with blonde hair, he exuded an effortless charm that immediately put Claire on alert. Everything about him looked practiced and oily. "Ms. Wisden," he extended his hand. "Detective Reynolds." Claire accepted his handshake, making herself appear as hesitant as she did actually feel. "Yes, that's me. Is something wrong?" Reynolds flashed a badge and ID card, tucking them back into his pocket before Claire could properly examine them. "Just following up on a patient. Daniel Ganston. I understand you accessed his file earlier today?" "Oh, yes." Claire widened her eyes, channeling innocent confusion. There was a flag in the system about his contact details. Standard admin follow-up. Reynolds smiled, although it looked more like he was baring his teeth. "And you visited his room personally? That's unusual for administrative staff, isn't it?" Claire lowered her gaze. She fidgeted with her bracelet and wished she could make herself blush to add to the overall impression of pathetic helplessness. "Well, we've had some issues with the internal messaging system lately. Sometimes it's quicker to just pop up and confirm details directly, especially with urgent cases." "I see." Reynolds leaned closer, lowering his voice. "And did Mr. Ganston say anything to you during this visit? Anything unusual?" "Unusual?" Claire screwed up her brow. "No, he was quite groggy, to be honest. Barely coherent. I couldn't get much out of him beyond confirming his name." Reynolds studied her face. "He didn't mention anything about a lorry." "A lorry?" Claire blinked rapidly, the picture of confusion. "No, nothing like that. Why would he talk about a lorry?" "Just part of an ongoing investigation. Mr. Ganston is a person of interest in a case I'm working. A significant case." Claire tilted her head. "But he's listed as a police officer in his file. I saw it myself." Oops, she'd been too quick. She shouldn't have said that. And indeed, something dangerous flickered across Reynolds' face before his charming mask slipped back into place. "That's part of our investigation. Mr. Ganston has been impersonating law enforcement to further his criminal activities." "Oh my goodness." Claire clutched her clipboard to her chest. "How awful. I had no idea." "It's very concerning," Reynolds agreed, placing a hand on her elbow and steering her towards a quieter corner. "Which is why I need to know exactly what he told you." "Absolutely nothing," Claire insisted, allowing a hint of the nervousness she really did feel to enter her voice. "He was barely conscious. I tried asking about his emergency contacts, but he just mumbled something about colleagues. That's all." Reynolds' fingers tightened on her elbow. "Miss Wisden, let me be frank. Ganston is dangerous. If he's shared information with you, you could be in danger yourself. For your own safety, I need to know what he said." "I promise, he didn't say anything important." Claire was conscious that her voice trembled, and this time she wasn't doing it deliberately. "I'm just doing my job. I don't want any trouble." Reynolds studied her for a long moment. "I believe you, Ms. Wisden, but I can't take chances. I think you should come with me to make a formal statement." "Now?" Claire glanced at her watch. "But I'm in the middle of my shift. Your supervisor will understand. This is a police matter." His smile had completely vanished now. "My car is just outside." This was no request. The man was taking her. Whether he was actual police or one of James's associates, she had no choice but to comply. Or she could make a fuss, but these days one could never be sure which side security would come down on. It wouldn't usually be the woman's, and this did appear, at least to the world, like a police request. However, it was also a great opportunity for her to find out more information. "All right," she said meekly. "Let me just tell my supervisor I'm leaving." "No need. I've already cleared it." Reynolds guided her toward the exit, his hand never leaving her elbow. Outside, a black saloon car waited at the curb. Reynolds opened the rear door and Claire slid inside, her mind racing. Was this an abduction? He must think she knew something about this lorry he mentioned. The driver, face impassive, glanced over her shoulder at Claire. Shock stopped Claire's breath until she had to cough and drag in air. It was Ellie. Their eyes met in the rearview mirror. Ellie's expression revealed nothing as Reynolds climbed into the passenger seat. Drive, he ordered. Yes, sir, Ellie replied, pulling smoothly away from the curb. Claire's mind whirled. Was Ellie working with this man? Had she betrayed them? Was she actually part of James's trafficking network? And not a victim of it at all? Or was she playing some deeper game Claire couldn't fathom? Reynolds twisted in his seat to face Claire. Let's drop the charade, Miss Wisden. I know Ganston talked to you, and I know you're not as innocent as you pretend. Claire maintained her wide-eyed expression. I don't understand what you mean. You will, Reynolds smiled. It wasn't a warming sight. Women like you, smart, presentable, respectable, they're quite valuable in our line of work. Ganston was supposed to be vetting new merchandise, not blabbing to them. Are you trying to tell me you're not a police detective after all? He merely snorted. Claire tried very hard to keep her face straight, not to show fear. Reynolds was part of the trafficking operation, and now he thought she knew too much. Worse, he was eyeing her as potential merchandise. Ellie caught Claire's gaze in the mirror again, and this time Claire noticed something. The barest hint of a wink. Whatever was happening, Ellie was still with them, still a blood sister. Claire slumped slightly in her seat. She didn't have to play-act the role of terrified victim. It came to her naturally while her mind raced around trying to think what her next move should be. What was it Reynolds thought Ganston had told her? And what was this lorry he seemed so set on finding? Where did Ellie fit into all this? And where was her phone? Subtly, she tried to search her bag for it, but when she looked up, she saw Reynolds waggling it in his hand while grinning at her. Somehow, he'd already deprived her of it. So, what was this phone she just closed her hand around when she saw Reynolds waving hers? For a moment, her mind went blank. But then the picture of Daniel pushing his phone at her appeared. Of course. She'd forgotten, in the panic of his relapse, that she had it. What was the number he'd said? It must be the code for unlocking it. If only she could remember it. She had to try and relax. The more stressed she got about remembering it, the more likely it would recede even further from her memory. In the meantime, she pressed every button she could feel on the phone to switch it off, so it didn't ring and give her away. The car glided through the streets, moving deeper into an industrial area Claire didn't recognize. Warehouses and abandoned factories loomed on either side, their windows dark and empty, dead. Where were they going? Some kind of trafficking hub? A place to pass through? Or a storeroom for the merchandise? Her fingers curled around Daniel's phone in her bag. The passcode. She closed her eyes briefly, forcing herself to calm down. It had been 5 digits. 03289. That was it. She was almost certain, but she couldn't risk checking now with Reynolds watching her so closely. Through the rearview mirror, she caught Ellie's eye again. Another quick wink. Whatever was happening, Ellie wasn't Reynolds' willing accomplice. Claire needed to play along until she understood what game they were playing. How much further? Reynolds asked. 10 minutes, Ellie replied. Reynolds nodded and turned his attention back to Claire. You know, most women would be crying by now. You're remarkably composed, unless you're not what you seem. I'm still hoping this is some kind of misunderstanding, Claire said, making her voice shake. His suspicion was unsettling. I really don't know anything about a lorry. The lorry is how we move the merchandise, Reynolds said. Ganston was supposed to be arranging a shipment with James. Instead, he's in hospital. James is missing, and you're suddenly very interested in both of them. A shipment. Women being transported like cargo. Her stomach churned. I told you, I was just doing my job. She shifted slightly, using the movement to slide her hand deeper into her bag. Her fingers touched Daniel's phone, if she could just get it powered up without Reynolds noticing. But how? The car slowed, turning into the yard of what looked like yet another abandoned warehouse. A surge of panic made her cough. Once inside, her chances of escape would plummet. We're here, Ellie announced, bringing the car to a halt. Reynolds reached for the door handle. Bring her in. I'll check the guardhouse. See if James is already here. As he stepped out and walked into the darkness, Ellie twisted in her seat. We don't have long, she whispered urgently. Michelle and Lucinda are nearby. There's a tracker on this car. What? How? James's phone. We found everything. His contacts, the trafficking network, locations, but not the lorry Reynolds is so obsessed with. We have to find it. It's women, many women, ready to be delivered and shipped. Claire pulled Daniel's phone from her bag. Daniel gave me this. It's something to do with his sister. It might tell us something. Turn it on, quickly. Claire pressed the power button, relieved when the screen lit up. She tapped in 03289. The phone unlocked. It worked, she whispered. Good. Now listen, Ellie said, her voice urgent. When we get inside, follow my lead. Reynolds thinks I'm one of James's girls, that I've turned informant for protection. But he doesn't know about the others. What's the plan? Claire asked, scrolling quickly through Daniel's phone. There were dozens of photos. Warehouses, license plates, men in suits. Evidence. Before Ellie could answer, Daniel's phone began to vibrate in Claire's hand. The screen lit up, emitting a series of insistent electronic beeps. They were deafening in the car's quiet interior. What the? Claire fumbled with the device, trying to silence it. The phone screen displayed a map, but there were no streets, no landmarks, just topographic contours. In the middle of what appeared to be wilderness, a red pin pulsed. Above it, a single word, Lissa. Lissa, Claire whispered, staring at the screen. Melissa. It must be his sister. Let me see. Ellie craned her neck to glimpse the screen. That's out by the old quarry. Nothing out there but forest and... The lorry, Claire murmured. This could be where they're keeping the women. They might be trapped out there, waiting for a rescue that might never come. She navigated to the phone's messaging app and sent the screenshot to Michelle's number, the only one she could recall from memory. She added, possible location of trafficked women, near old quarry. The message had barely sent when gravel crunched outside the car. Reynolds was returning. Hide it, Ellie hissed. Claire fumbled, shoving Daniel's phone deep into her bag just as Reynolds yanked open the car door. What are you two whispering about? He snarled. Nothing, Claire said. I was just... Reynolds glanced between them, then at Claire's bag. Give me that. Before she could react, he reached across and snatched her bag, upending the contents onto the seat. Makeup, pens, tissues, and Daniel's phone tumbled into view. Time slowed as Reynolds picked up the device. You stupid bitch. Why would a medical secretary have two phones? What are you? Everything happened at once. Reynolds pulled a gun from his jacket. Ellie lunged over the seat, grabbing for his arm. The gun discharged with a deafening crack. Ellie jerked backward, blood blooming across her chest. No, Claire screamed. Reynolds shoved Ellie's slumping form aside and grabbed Claire by the hair, dragging her from the car. Pain thrummed through her scalp as he threw her onto the gravel. Daniel's phone fell to the ground. Reynolds brought his foot down on it with a sickening crunch, grinding it into the stones. You're supposed to be some good, docile little medical secretary, he spat, yanking Claire up by her hair again. But you couldn't help playing detective, could you? Claire's gaze darted to Ellie, motionless in the front seat, blood pooling beneath her. No. This couldn't be happening. Not Ellie, not a blood sister. Reynolds dragged her toward the warehouse, the gun pressed against her ribs. Each step sent fresh pain through Claire's scalp as he hauled her by her hair. The warehouse door groaned as Reynolds kicked it open, shoving Claire inside. The vast space echoed with their footsteps, dust particles slithering around each other in shafts of light from high, broken windows. Empty wooden pallets were stacked against one wall. A metal table stood in the center, surrounded by chairs. Reynolds threw her into one of them, the gun never wavering from her face. Let's have a proper chat about our mutual friend, James, he said, pulling up a chair across from her. And about what exactly he told you before you killed him. Because I think that's what's happened to him, isn't it? You killed him, didn't you? Claire stared at Reynolds, but didn't see him. All she could think was, time. She needed time. Every minute she kept him talking was a minute for Michelle and Lucinda to find Ellie, to follow up on that map. Every second was precious. James? She widened her eyes, forcing a tremble into her voice. Michelle's brother. What's happened to him? She could actually hear Reynolds grinding his teeth. Don't play dumb with me. I know he went to his sister's house that night and never came back. I haven't seen Michelle for ages, Claire said, aiming for a face full of confusion. We had a falling out. Over her brother, actually. I thought he was controlling that poor girl he was with. A flicker of something crossed Reynolds' face. Girl? What girl? Where is she now? Claire shook her head slowly. He really hadn't known about Ellie. I have no idea. I told you, I haven't spoken to Michelle for a long time. You're lying. Reynolds walked behind her, his boots scraping on the concrete floor. His presence at her back made her skin itch to be somewhere else, but she made herself remain still. The last message James sent me said he had a potential new acquisition to show me, then nothing. Acquisition? You mean a woman? A person? Business is business. His hand came to rest on her shoulder, fingers digging in painfully, and business has been very profitable lately. She resisted the urge to shrug him off. She just wanted to keep him talking. How many women are in that lorry you mentioned? His fingers tightened. So you do know about it? Only what you've told me, but it sounds awful. Those poor women, are they still in there, without food or water? Reynolds guffawed. The sound bounced off the concrete like a hyena's laugh, grating, hollow, and hungry. Playing for sympathy now, trying to appeal to my better nature? He bent over her. I don't have one. Everyone has some humanity, Claire said. Even you must have people you care about. What I care about is my merchandise and my profits. And right now, both are at risk because of whatever you and your little friends have done. Claire stretched out as many seconds as she dared before speaking. I really don't know what you're talking about. I'm just a medical secretary who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. A medical secretary with 2 phones. 2 phones. Reynolds pulled her head back by her hair, and who just so happened to work with the man who was a partner in the business, who was then conveniently murdered by someone who's never been locked up for it. Claire's heart hiccuped. Your partner? Your consultant, the one who suddenly died from his injuries, apparently from being mugged. Yeah, sure. Cockwombledock was a partner in a trafficking ring? Not that she was in the least bit surprised. But she was shocked that he'd been able to profit from such evil corruption while holding down such a prestigious position at the hospital. We're working on the current one. He'll be on side soon. Adrian Mercer? That's him. That's the one. Of course, now you know way too much. You know what that means. Claire did know what that meant. But her mission was still to keep him occupied for as long as possible. So she said, he's the new consultant in my department. Started last week. Seems perfectly respectable. Has a good attitude towards all the support staff. Reynolds' grip loosened slightly. Confusion flickered across his face. Maybe you've been misinformed about other things too, Claire suggested. James could be anywhere. Perhaps he just changed his mind about meeting you. James doesn't change his mind about business, and Mercer is our man, or he will be soon. Claire sensed uncertainty. I'm trying to help you see that whatever information you have might be wrong. I don't know anything about James or trafficking or lorries. I'm just a secretary who got dragged into something I don't understand. Reynolds stood squarely in front of her now. The women in that lorry are valuable cargo. If they die because of your games, then call someone to help them, Claire said. Where is this lorry? Reynolds ignored her question. Anyway, he said. They should have been moved by now. James was supposed to oversee it. If he's not dead. Maybe he's not dead. Maybe he has moved the lorry by now. Maybe they're already safe. Why don't you call and check? Surely you have someone who could tell you. Or maybe he's double-crossed you. Reynolds swore. He turned away, pressing his phone to his ear. Claire could hear the faint ringing, followed by a terse conversation consisting mostly of grunts and monosyllables from his end. When he turned back, his expression was stony. No answer from the lorry. No contact from James. That sounds concerning, Claire said, trying to sound sympathetic. For everyone involved. Reynolds slammed his hands down on the table. Enough games! Tell me what happened to James, or I'll show you firsthand how we break in the difficult merchandise. Claire flinched, despite herself. I really don't. The warehouse door creaked. Reynolds spun around, gun raised. Claire held her breath, praying it wasn't someone innocent blundering in, praying it was rescue. A shaft of light from a powerful torch cut across the dusty floor as the door opened wider. Reynolds stepped sideways, shouting, Anyone comes in, she dies first. The door stopped moving. Silence stretched, broken only by Claire's ragged breathing and the hammering of her heart. Then, a sharp sound, a single shot. Reynolds didn't move, not at first. His head tilted slightly, as if listening for something. The gun stayed raised, his stance unchanged. Then his fingers slackened. The weapon dropped, struck the floor, and clattered away. He followed, slowly. His knees gave way, shoulders sagged, the rest of him crumpled. No one spoke. The light held steady. The silence returned. Claire stayed still. The air felt thinner now, as if the shot had made it fragile. Her gaze stayed on Reynolds, but her mind hadn't caught up. He was down. The gun was gone, but her body hadn't received permission to move. One moment a man had stood there, thinking, breathing. Now he was just a shape on the floor. Alive, and then not alive. The light hadn't shifted. Whoever held it hadn't spoken. Who had fired it? A woman's voice, calm, authoritative, not Michelle's or Lucinda's, said, "I want to hear all's clear all around the building before moving in." At some unheard signal, a woman appeared inside the door, flanked by others. She wore tactical gear, her face partially obscured by a cap pulled low, but Claire could see she was young with close-cropped blonde hair. She held a rifle. The two women with her ran forwards. "Michelle and Lucinda! Claire, are you hurt?" "I'm fine," Claire managed. "But Ellie, she's in the car. He shot her. She needs help." Lucinda was already moving toward the door. "I'll see to her." The blonde-haired woman kept her rifle at the ready as she scanned her surroundings. Claire was glad of Shell's help as she got to her feet. She'd come over all shaky. "Who are you?" Claire asked, staring at their unexpected ally. "Melissa Ganston," the woman replied. She didn't relax for a second. "But how? Daniel thought you'd been abducted." "I escaped," Melissa said without elaborating. "Been tracking these bastards ever since." She nudged Reynolds' corpse with her boot. "This one in particular. Are the police on their way?" Claire asked. "I hope not." Melissa said, "They're in on it too." "Oh no," Michelle said. "We called them." "Then we must waste no time. We must get to the lorry and get the women out and into hiding." Melissa ran back outside. Lucinda burst back through the door. "Ellie's alive, but barely. We need an ambulance now. I've called one." A wail of sirens could be heard, growing louder in the night. Melissa shouted, "Ellie will be all right now. Follow me. I know where the lorry is." The Blood Sisters raced outside, jumped in Michelle's old Mini, and took off in a shower of flying gravel after Melissa's pickup truck and a couple of other vehicles, presumably belonging to her followers. "It's all right, Claire," Shell said, as she followed the vehicles in front. "We've already been to the lorry. We got there after you sent me the map." There was a tracker thing in a bracelet that Melissa had given to one of the women. That was what was beeping. "That was lucky, then," Claire said. "That tracker was so Daniel Ganston could keep an eye on his sister. He wouldn't have expected her to give the bracelet away." Melissa knew there was a tracker in it. That's why she left it with one of the girls, so she could track them if they were moved. She says her brother couldn't fight his way out of a wet paper bag, but she appreciates him trying to take care of her all the same. Shell laughed. "We're not to say that to him, though. That would be mean." Claire smiled. It was nice to relax, if only for a moment. Poor Daniel. She hoped he never did find out that his gallantry was misplaced, and his sister was far more likely to rescue him than the other way around.